last bit of news today. It's not news at all because this episode has already dropped. If you clicked on this video, you know that this is going to be a WandaVision episode 6 spoiler review. Now, this last Friday on Disney Plus, episode 6 of WandaVision came out, entitled the all-new Halloween Spooktacular. And the first thing I was surprised by in this trailer, because it took me a second to figure it out, we skipped the 90s. We just totally skipped the 90s in terms of storytelling narrative. So episode 1 starts off in the 50s, episode 2 was in the 60s, episode 3 was in the 70s. Episode 4, we kind of got to learn what was actually happening in this world. Episode 5, we jumped to the 80s. And then episode 6, we kind of thought was going to be the 90s, like a classic 90s sitcom. Nope. We jumped to the early 2000s in a Malcolm in the Middle style episode where, hey, it's Halloween. This is a spoiler review. Quicksilver's there. He's in the opening title sequence. And he knows he's not the Quicksilver. It's a weird amalgam of this character. Quicksilver knows that he is not the same Quicksilver from the X-Men universe. So, as opposed to last week's speculation that the appearance of Evan Peters as Quicksilver in that episode has now blown open the multiverse. It's still possible. We're not shutting down that theory. But is it Evan Peters is it Quicksilver from the X-Men movies? Is it an alternate version? Is it a strange amalgam? Is it somebody else pulling the strings? Because in this episode, Evan Peters is asking the same question that Vision is asking. How are you doing this? He's asking the same question that Sword is asking. How are you doing? Why are you doing this? Vision has his own adventure where he goes off, and we come to learn that Wanda is, yes, while she's controlling this whole thing, and she's kind of like possessing the people's minds and making them believe certain things about themselves and acting in a certain way to keep up this reality, this ruse of this bizarre sitcom world that she's now decided to live in by taking over Westview. She's losing control. She is losing control. People are glitching. She has frozen certain people because her attention is being kept elsewhere. This is also the first time that we've actually seen children, besides Billy and Tommy, in Westview. For the children. Everyone's so concerned about for the children. Where are the children? What's happening with the children? This is, we get some big, maybe not big revelations, but some big spectacular things happen. Wanda freaked out a little bit. She's now expanded the world of Westview. A lot of Sword agents have now been turned into clowns. There's now a town, like the circus is in town, right? We don't know what became of Darcy. She got absorbed into the Westview bubble circle-y thing. We don't know what she got turned into. Catherine Hahn coming, where we've always speculated that she's playing the witch Agatha Harkness, and being that she's stuck in her car dressed in a witch costume, one more piece of speculative. Maybe it's all a red herring. Maybe it's all a red herring just to say, oh, they're gonna think it's Agatha Harkness, but really, it's who knows? Who knows? Now, Nate, you being here as our comic book aficionado, specialist, expert, you might have a little more insight as to what's going on here. I know a lot of people online are speculating about Nightmare is controlling this, or maybe Mephisto is there. Yeah, big name in it. And they've also dropped a lot of references to the House of M. A lot of references. There, I think it was the first episode. There was that wine bottle that said Maison de something, which essentially translates from House of M.
House
There
of
was
M,
a lot of like upside down W's and like and letter M's in various tapestries and whatever. So Wanda, House of M, what kind of thing. What do you think is going on here? Who do you think these characters are? Let's start with Catherine Hahn. Do you think that she actually is playing the witch Agatha Harkness?
Oh, that's tricky because it's so deliberate and carefully crafted, right? So it's hard to say what is just an amazingly placed hint or what is just really done Easter egg. I don't know. She does seem to have a better understanding of what's going on in there than anybody else. Like she seems to be aware that it's a manipulation more consistently, and like she keeps the other characters in check. And it even seems like she is capable of manipulating Wanda a little bit. Like I thought it was interesting when the dog died, she didn't actually show her the dog.
Oh, I never thought about that.
So I mean, if she is more capable, that lends precedence to the fact that maybe she does
Mm.
know magic. But you know, it's hard to say because it could be, you know, she could be Agatha Harkness, but without, you know, not being a sorcerer because, you know, it's a reinvented character, so it's really hard
All
to
right,
say.
let's jump to Vision for a second because
Okay.
in previous episodes, it has been heavily speculated that Vision is the reanimated corpse of Vision, of himself. That she has brought all the pieces.
Yeah, she's weakened at
Yeah.
Bernie's. Him
But we do
around.
get that flash of security footage of Wanda breaking into a sword facility, stealing all of and the body parts of Vision are all over the room.
Right, he was disassembled, which seemed contrary to what his wishes were. If that guy really cared about
You
maintaining his
used a
wishes.
word, disassembled, and I've never put two and two
Mm-hmm.
together, but we know that Avengers Disassembled led into
Was
House of M.
House of M,
So do you
yes.
think? I mean, maybe I'm just pulling strings where strings don't exist, but do you think it's
Mm-hmm.
possible that his physical disembodiment, his disassemblement, was
Mm-hmm.
representative of Avengers Disassembled?
It's hard to say. Once again, it's so brilliantly and carefully crafted. I don't think she's puppeteering him because he seems to be too independent for that, right? I think maybe he was dead, but my kind of theory is like the more colored it is, the more real it's becoming. Because you know, when he was dead, he's in black and white, and as the world has progressed, it became colored more.
Here's a theory that I had early on in like episodes 1 and 2, and even in episode 3. Episode 4 kind of
Mhm.
made me rethink this a little bit, but I don't know. I'm kind of revisiting this a little, especially after seeing Vision outside of the hex and then getting pulled back in. He
Mhm.
cannot exist outside of the hex. So that kind of brings me back to my original theory or thought. What do you think of Vision being the physical embodiment of Wanda's subconscious?
Hmm. It's possible, but I think that's truly him. And it kind of also makes me wonder because my theory's been that equally, like, I don't think it's all Wanda, but she's being manipulated, but I think they're also they need Vision for something as well. Because there was a couple of like lines early on where they talked about like needing his super brain. So it just one makes me wonder if whoever was manipulating Wanda is also trying to get access to whatever Vision
So
is
you've
as
mentioned
well.
somebody else manipulating Wanda. I think that's pretty fair to say is maybe
Hmm.
not an absolute certainty, but we're pretty sure somebody else is pulling the strings here. But then again, maybe not. If somebody is pulling the
Hmm.
strings here, who are your top picks? Who do you think is the most likely?
Um, I mean, my first thought was Mephisto, just because he was such a big thing in the comics, and we know we're kind of getting more into like the horror universe with the upcoming like Doctor Strange
And
and
just for
Multiverse of
clarity,
Madness and
just for
Blade coming
clarity,
up.
Mephisto is Satan himself.
Fundamentally, yeah. Back in the day, they had a couple of different, but at this point, yeah, Mephisto is like the big devil of the
Okay.
Marvel universe.
Who else?
Um, it's possible because in the comics, there was a villain associated with the Vision called the Grim Reaper that could bring people back to life, and there's a lot of talk about the concept of bringing people back to life has come up a lot in this show.
Ooh.
Right, just like even when Wanda mentions it, and Agatha's like, "Oh, you can bring people back to life," so that
They
that's
even
a
had a
possibility.
Grim Reaper Easter egg in episode 2.
Exactly, so that could be it. I wonder about like Hydra or AIM, but I've kind of moved away from. I do wonder about the guy that's in charge of the FBI that tried to attack Wanda. He seems to have like an agenda because he was the one that had once again Vision's body, but they didn't
I
seem to be
just see
respecting
him
his
being
wishes
just a
that he
jerk.
claimed
Like
were so
he's just your
important.
standard military
Yeah.
operative. We're doing things by the book. I'm not going to take chances. And so far, his reactions to everything going on within the show seem very in line with a standard military operation.
Yeah, but if it's an experiment that's gotten out of their control, maybe he's just trying to terminate it.
Oh. Do you think there may have been like a little bit of mind control?
I think, yeah, I don't think initially Wanda knew what was going on, but I think she, at some point, realized she was in this like fake world and that she can control it. And she's like, "Oh, why wake up from this dream world that's perfect if I don't have to?"
Interesting.
So, but also like, I just thought it was weird, like why he was tracking Vision specifically and stuff like that. And I don't know. It's so hard to say. I think it's definitely once it's done, one of those things you're gonna like a second viewing through once you really know what's going on is gonna prove beneficial.
And Kim and I have already started going back through and rewatching some of these episodes, knowing what we know now. We still don't know the full story. What about the theory of Wanda herself? Like she's not being controlled, she's not being manipulated. This is just her pure, absolute freak out. This is her reaction, her response to losing her brother, losing Vision, losing Tony Stark. This whole battle royale that went down with Thanos. Like we know mentally she's not in a bad.
She's processing
she's in
a lot,
bad spot. What do you think about the theory of her just being the villain of her own story?
It's possible, but I don't think so. And I mean, maybe that's because I don't want it to be true. But once again, it seems like she initially was also kind of unaware, right? Like at the start, she couldn't remember things, and she had confusing moments and stuff like that. Which that's why it leads me to believe that she was initially there's some outside influence that was using her for her powers, and maybe it's gotten out of hand, or she's realized that she is behind the steering wheel kind of thing. So it's very possible, and that would be cool, but I don't think that's
How about
what
Quicksilver? Evan Peters as Quicksilver. In this episode, they actually showed footage from Age of Ultron where Pietro was shot to death by Ultron. And now comparing, like, because we have Aaron Taylor Johnson's face in the same episode as Evan Peters' face, both playing the same character. Where do you think Evan Peters is going to end up being the big reveal, or do you think he was already the big reveal character? What do you think is going on with him and his character?
Well, I think so. Like how you talked about it, it's still a distinct possibility that it could be both, because even though they've addressed that it is a different Pietro and that he looked different at his death, he has referenced memories that he has that Wanda does not from their childhood. So I think it's kind of a weird like modge podge of both of those characters.
What if he's lying though?
And that is possible that he's a manipulation,
say that he himself
or
is Grim Reaper. taking upon
Mm-hmm.
the form of Pietro. Like, because again,
Yeah.
towards the end of the last episode of episode 5. Sorry, I have to go back through and remember what actually happened in episode 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
There, like, Vonda, Vision, Vonda and Vision. Now I can't get that out of my mind. Wanda and Vision were having a very heartfelt moment, and there was this whole thing about like the kids growing up, right? Because they get to choose when they
Mm-hmm.
want to grow up, and the dog dying and everything, and that is when Evan Peters shows up. Of course, we all think it's Quicksilver, but I think there's like, I don't know. It's almost,
Something.
well, no,
Oh, go
well, it's
ahead.
almost
Sorry.
like Wanda is on the verge of figuring out, or rather, of being on the same page as Vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we know that they're not on the same page. Vision has his own questions and theories, and he's figured out how to like unlock people's brain manipulation and then kind of put them back. So he gets little flashes of information. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but then, and that's the moment when Evan Peters shows up. So I don't know. I kind of feel like the villain is taking on the embodiment. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about this all in real time right now. The
Oh
villain
yeah,
is
yeah,
taking
yeah.
on the embodiment of Evan Peters because it's familiar and it's a clever way to kind of
It's a distraction.
redirect Wanda where she needs to
Mm-hmm.
go.
And maybe once that's what that was supposed to be, but because she seems to be able to influence that, maybe I don't know, maybe once again they introduced him as a distraction or something to make her feel comfortable, but maybe her influence has allowed the deviation from his personality. Because if he was a distraction, I don't know, like he points out that she's manipulating people. It's kind of a weird
Yeah,
distraction,
it totally is.
you know. Like he antagonizes her versus calming her down and being like it's fine and stuff like that, or he seems to be aware that what she's doing is problematic even though he's not against it, kind of. That's a
Well, he's
weird
asking
way to
probing
like
questions.
soothe her. Yeah, but there's all throughout the show, like all the characters seem to be
Yeah.
looking for information. Like at the very first episode when they were like what's going on with you, like it seems like something is looking for answers in whatever this field is with them.
I also find it curious that at kind of like the climax of episode 5, when Wanda and Vision kind of like fly
Mm-hmm.
up and have that kind of like face off moment against each other. In that confrontation comes this whole idea that there are no children in Westview. What happened to the children?
Mm-hmm.
And now in episode 6, all the children are there. So that very well could be like, if in that moment Wanda has this subconscious realization that, oh my goodness, there are no children. What have I done with the children? Where have they been all this time? What if they're sleeping in their beds? What if they, like, she just kind of like made them not exist at all? And now in episode 6, she's brought them in, and whomever is, and now I'm operating under the assumption that Quicksilver is not Quicksilver. Some, let's just say Mephisto, or I think Grim Reaper is one of the more likely of outcomes here. So let's just say the
Mm-hmm.
Grim Reaper shows up as Quicksilver, in his version of being like, what's this now? You're bringing children into my world? I don't think so. What's going on? So yeah, I mean, like she comes to know that there are no children, and now she manifests all the children. So I don't know. What do you think's going on there? There's something bigger at work.
And maybe it's just like looking at it like a play, because they seem to be aware, certain
Yeah.
characters, that they're in a show, right? Like when the extras come on all of a sudden, you don't really think about the fact it's like, oh, where have those extras been the whole time? It's like they didn't serve a purpose as of yet. And maybe, yeah, it is simply because somebody questioned it. So they're like, this is weird. And so they're like, no, no, it's not weird. Here are all those children that have definitely been here this whole time. Or maybe it's just simply, they didn't need a hammer. And so now they need a hammer. So they've reached over and got it out of the toolbox. Because, right, it makes sense that if the kids are growing and experiencing Halloween, there's going to be other children and stuff like that. Right? Like, we only saw a few staple characters until like they needed. It's very much when they need more, we get introduced to more.
There's so much about this episode that we could break down and we could probably talk further on. Nate, final thoughts of the episode overall. Where do you think it's going to go? What are your final fan theories?
I mean, I'm hoping it does kind of. It would be cool if this is one of the Easter eggs that they're planning and building into, like how they're going to get the X-Men in. So I am hoping it's not just a cool thing like a recasting with having the new Pietro the X-Men's Pietro. So I'm hoping that there's more to it than that. I mean, if not, it's still cool. I'm banking on. I don't think Wanda is the true villain. That's my theory. That's kind of where I think ultimately I'm going with it, because they've hinted at that. So I think ultimately somebody is using Wanda and Vision for their own means, and maybe by the end of it they're gonna, it's gotten out of control. But maybe by the end of it, Vision will be back, and who knows if Quicksilver will be back, and their kids will be a permanent facet. But that's kind of what I'm hoping, because it does seem like they're kind of also building to like a young Avengers, right? Because they have Miss Marvel and Ironheart and a young Hawkeye and Spider-Man's there. So it does seem like they're building to that. And maybe these are some of those building blocks for that.
We've speculated for a long time now that they've been building a Young Avengers, or like been building up towards a Young Avengers. I would love that. I would love that so much. I mean, we've had Cassie Lang. We know that Haley Steinfeld is going to be playing first fiddle as Kate Bishop. Yeah. So many, like even the mechanic, the little kid mechanic from Iron Man 3, he was at Tony Stark's funeral. Why? Well, because they're building up for Young Avengers. And again, like as you say, now we have Magic and Speed, who are the children of Wanda. It's all there. It's all there. It's gonna happen. It's a matter of time. When's it gonna happen? We're not sure, but it's gonna happen. But I mean, there's so much about this episode that we could break down. We haven't even touched all the Monica Rambeau stuff. Like, we know that she has a sordid relationship with Captain Marvel. Now she and Jimmy Woo are on the outs with the Sword operative guys. They did not get absorbed into the Hex. They got away. There's still, we know that Monica Rambeau's internal. She's changed,
she's changing,
cellular,
right?
molecular, blah blah blah, whatever. She's gonna become Photon or whatever version. She goes by like 50,000 different names in the comics.
Yeah, she's had a lot of different names.
But yeah, so like guys, what do you think of episode 6? Where do you think this is going? Who's pulling the strings? What is going to happen? There's so much stuff to talk about. Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, click like. If you really like this video, click subscribe. And if you really, really like this video, click share. Because that is exactly what Tony Stark's Iron Man would want you to do.